Well, good morning, everybody. As we start our Thursday morning here, I want to take you back to yesterday, Wednesday afternoon, just to show you the size of this deep low pressure system that's now entering day 3 of kind of its slow trek across the southern part of the United States. This, of course, ripped off numerous severe storms that moved across parts of the south along the Gulf Coast, and we'll take a look at those storm reports in just a few moments. But as it starts to peel its way up toward the Ohio River Valley, which it'll be doing today, increasing the severe weather, we did get a chance yesterday afternoon to kind of see a little bit more of a clearer image of the western United States. And just thinking a lot about the West and what's happened to them at the end of winter here in spring, we can kind of break it down into 2 categories. First of all, their total amount of stored water, especially in the Sierra Nevada mountains plus the reservoirs, is above the historic averages. So we're looking here at millions of acre feet of water. And when you add up the reservoirs to the snowpack, you can see that we're above the historical averages, meaning that when the new drought monitor is released later today, you'll once again see California, in fact, almost the whole of the West Coast outside of any sort of drought risk right now. And normally, because of how much water is there, this means California will spend the entire year, at least all the way up till next October, November, without seeing any change in its drought situation, because that's the normal dry season anyway. It should be beginning, very, very soon. One of my biggest concerns for California is this, though. If you look at this map, which goes back to March 1st and looks at average temperature ranks since then, we've had very, very cold conditions more often than we've had warm conditions, which means we've really begun to slow the arrival of the heat, therefore the progress of the just wide range of crops that are grown throughout the western United States. And it's becoming a concern. We've got to break over to some heat soon, and we'll take a look and see if that's going to happen here in just a few moments. Now, I didn't talk about this map for the rest of the country because it's a bit misleading, because it includes all of March and the first 10 days of April. Remember, since the equinox, we've been much colder in this area. This is just how much the March warmth offset what's been cold since really the last week of March and the beginning here of April. So let's get into the impact of that system. Looking here at the Storm Prediction Center's main page, I've just hovered over the word storm reports. They have this really outstanding graphic here that you can just kind of go back and forth and look at all the major things that need to be discussed. And I leave it on this one just to show you the 117 reports we had from yesterday, and also to remind you that in total we're well over 400 severe weather reports from this system. But one thing we're going to be talking about, real nice way to just see what's going on over the next week. Well, we do have the risk tomorrow and also today for severe storms, but take a look at this Monday, Tuesday. We're going to have to give a discussion to that as well as we see this next system that's going to slide south over California on the weekend and then get out here in the plains early next week. So we'll come back to that in a few moments. First, though, I do want to show you how much hail has been in this for the last 3 days. Just kind of take a look here at this part of the south getting over toward the lower Mississippi River Valley. This storm system, again, in its first 72 hours of existence here, has produced, like I said, 400 reports of severe weather. A lot of those have been hail and straight line wind damage. Total precip out of this, though, has been incredibly impressive. Through early this morning, about 5 a.m., I had to record a little earlier today. I'm going to be heading up to Wisconsin in a little while to give a talk in the Dells. So, just looking at the rainfall we've had out of this, I love every bit of this. We needed to get rain back in this area, but this is getting to be too much. And with the forecast I'm going to show you hitting this area again several times over the next 10 to 20 days, we just need to be aware of the continued delays, the flooding impacts, and what this is going to mean to the crops that are grown in the southern part of the United States, on both sides of the Mississippi River. Because right now, as it stands, widespread 4 or 5 inches of rain, some places much more than that in this area. Okay, this morning as we watch the radar animate, broad shield of precipitation to the north, and this is going to be critical to understanding the severe storm threat that's going to be in parts of the Ohio Valley getting over toward the Appalachian Mountains later today. And what I mean is we've got to get heating in place. This is a well-forced storm system, plenty of wind shear, strong fronts. We're going to have no problem tossing air up into the atmosphere along these fronts, whether it's going to meet a pretty rapid change in speed and direction, giving it the shear that would be needed to produce storms. The question is, are we going to get the heating in place? And I'm going to go with the Storm Prediction Center on this. They're the best. I just want to show you that that's one of their concerns as well in this area. But early this morning, storms were ripping across parts of Georgia and Florida down here. In fact, that's where most of our lightning is this morning. Numerous strikes. Even if we just add up the last 24 hours or so, we've seen nearly 200,000 cloud-to-ground lightning strikes just in the last 24 hours as this system continues to move on off to the east. By the way, the website I use for this, I know many of you longtime viewers know it, but I'll tell anybody that's new, it's called Blitzertongue. Go to blitzertongue.org and play around with it. It's one of my favorite sites. You can get free lightning data from this site. Okay, later today, we have this now larger area that's under the slight risk and this enhanced risk here. Again, just take a look at the categories at the bottom that we're going to keep an eye on. And it's going to be very tricky to forecast this. It's going to be about when does the isolated convection break out, midday today or late today, of course, before the sun sets, if we can get enough solar heat in to really destabilize the atmosphere. Because the kinematics, the dynamics of this is fine. There's a low here. And if you go looking in the upper levels of the atmosphere, just like we talked about yesterday, a great shortwave that's sneaking out into this area. All the features are lining up to make this give us the risk here. It's just a question as to whether or not we'll be able to get that sunshine in there to destabilize the lower atmosphere. Outside of that, finally a break in terms of the strong winds right along the front range of the Rocky Mountains. But as you get out into the plains and into the Midwest, all the way down to the south, a stronger northwest wind today. It's going to cool things off a bit. But that's not going to last long. We're going to warm back up here very, very quickly. And then we're going to start to pay attention to this guy right here. That's the low that's going to sneak down this weekend. Southern California, come over the Four Corner States without too much fanfare. But when it gets out here early next week, it's going to be the question as to what it does with respect to cold air that's still lingering out of the Arctic to its north. So we're going to get that whole story going for you in just a few seconds here. All right, as it stands, about 5:30 this morning, we're looking at widespread wind issues. So this would be a red flag warning, but we get down here farther to the south. This is all just high wind advisory. And remember, there are flood watches and flood warnings tucked underneath this. So all of that is still in this area. So let's go ahead and have a look at the high-res NAM. It's done a pretty good job with this system. I really think it's done a good job at the back end cutoff on where the heavy rains have been. But as we play this through the middle of the day today, getting out there to this evening, so right in through here, that's where we're going to be watching for any signal of clearing things out a little bit. We could get a band of showers that stretches from the UP through Wisconsin into Illinois, down into western Kentucky and Tennessee on the back side of this. And then that low curls its way through the northeast. Now, it's going to get windy behind this as we get into Friday morning. But as we go out here, just as this low starts to leave the Canadian Maritimes, Friday night into early Saturday morning, the high-res NAM is putting down some snow on the backside of this. And we need to take a look at that in the other models as well. Meanwhile, there's our next system. This is the one that again is going north to south along the west coast. We've seen several of these in late March and April. And as we work our way into early Saturday morning, this is going to be hitting Northern California first. Some of the Sacramento Valley here, the low just spins right off of the San Francisco coast. And what we want to do is figure out where this is going to make it over the mountains in the coming days after this. So let's take a look at several different precipitation forecasts and kind of build that story that we've been creating. The artificial intelligence is first, and this is its 7-day forecast for total precipitation. And again, it's going to be interesting to watch how well this model performs as we get into a time period where convection more dominates the pattern. That's storms. But what we've watched it change around quite a bit. It's been the heavier precip here in the upper Midwest northern plains. We've now seen it move that away from this part of Montana and the western Dakotas. There's still this area to the south that in the southern plains I'm quite concerned about in terms of missing out on this precip. But let's compare it to the WPC. Now take a look at this. The WPC has quite a bit more heavy precip through this area and farther back to the west. But there is going to be a pretty sharp divide, according to this model, on where the storms are going to set up Monday, Tuesday, and how much moisture we'll be able to pull back into the plains. Now, the south could get a short-term break, but I told you at the beginning there's more rain coming to the south, continuing that longer-term problem with our flood threat down here. I'll show you when that arrives. But the European model, this is its solution. We're just going to play it out a week. This is through the weekend into early next week. We're going to stop this right here at day 7. Now, take note. Where did the European model on Monday night blow up the storms? Right here. And that's going to be the quarter we're going to have to watch very, very carefully for the severe weather. This is mostly now. This is Saturday's system. This is the one coming out early next week. And let's just park this again out there at 7 days and compare it to the GFS. Now, the GFS has a much different height pattern, which is drawing, just watch this part of Montana and the Western Dakotas. This is the European, that's the GFS. It's a slower progressing system. It's drawing much more moisture back to Montana. And I mean, it's night and day difference. In fact, I brought up the differences so you could see them. So comparing the models, and right here in this corner of Montana, the difference between the two models is like 3 inches almost. And that is all due to the pace of the next system. And there's the chance that some of this here could be heavy snow. So we need to do that model comparison. And then I'm just going to tell you, please do not take the models I'm about to show you verbatim. This is going to change a lot. We're just waiting to see how the system gets over the mountains. But again, this is the 7-day comparison between the European model, which would be wetter than the GFS in these colors. It's being compared to the GFS, which would be wetter in these colors compared to the European. Okay. All right. Models. I'm going to start you off with the GFS. As we play forward, this is Friday getting into Saturday. There is our coastal low as the low leaves the northeast. Pay attention to this cold air here. That's always been in the narrative. As we go from Saturday into Sunday, this moves right over the Four Corners states. Now, it is the timing and spacing of these two troughs that's going to be critical, because what happens is on Monday, this one ejects out of the plains according to the GFS. And there's a separation between the two. And that separation is key. So if we kind of take it from this point in Nebraska to that point in Idaho, how far apart these systems are will determine how far this one sinks to the south and how far this one's able to wrap its moisture back around to the north. Now, just take a look. We're going to stop it there at 132-hour forecast. That would be 6 a.m. Central Time on Tuesday. And if I come up here and I show you the European ensemble, look at this. It's got the low in Nebraska, but it's got the low on the backside here. So the other one was there. And I know it's like a subtle difference, but it will change the interaction between these two lows. They're farther apart, meaning this one's going to be able to break away and probably fade, and the one on the back digs in. So see that? Look, that's an important difference overall in where this one will be able to return its moisture to the west. Now, that's just through we're just through next Tuesday. Let's go ahead and show you the artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence forecast model has shallower waves, and there's still a pretty long separation. And that's why the AI model is also drier in this area. But they all agree that the backside trough wins eventually. And by next Thursday into Friday, drops a lot of cold air into this area. Really next Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, starts to drop the colder air in here. And that's going to set up over the Great Lakes eventually. And that's that cold blast from like the 17th to the 21st we were talking about. California, after that's done, look at this. There's heat coming. And the models are not tossing those deep troughs that go like this anymore. Okay, they're not picking up on that. So this pattern starts to move a bit farther to the north. And we don't get lows that start in the Gulf of Alaska and dive down here. Like, well, where did that come from? It came from way over here. That's more tropical in origin, or at least subtropical. And that's going to change the entire temperature pattern going forward. So we just need to get in and talk about it. All right, all of that stitched together. Let's go look at the models. Okay, GFS left, European right, this morning's runs. We've seen through here. Look at the snow on the backside from both models. You have to watch that in the interior of the Northeast. There's Saturday's system right there. It slides to the south. The GFS and European are much more in tune with its distance from San Francisco and the snow in the Sierra Nevada. Now the low kind of falls apart over the mountains, or is at least not well resolved. And what's happening is the GFS has this trough going right here to Idaho. It has the wave out ahead of it there. Where's the European? It's hanging out back here with the wave there. See the two differences? See the spacing difference? Now as we go forward, what does it do? This low goes from Nebraska toward Wisconsin, while the backside low sneaks into Idaho. In the GFS, it goes toward the Red River Valley of the North, while the low comes into Idaho, much closer. Better drawn moisture back, fills in the gap, doesn't fill in the gap. Like, that's the difference right now in the models. Reality is still yet to be seen. This is just in the models. So these systems come through by next Wednesday, and they're completely different in the distribution of precipitation along the 49th. I'm going to take a look at that. That's next Wednesday. I mean, the GFS is like, hey, dump snow, just go. The Europeans like, let's put this up here almost north of the main growing areas in the Canadian prairie. We do know that after this, 17th, 18th, 19th, we're going to drop some cooler air in. And do not, I have no trust right now on what the heck this thing is in the European model. I actually don't even know about this. We'll keep an eye out on it, but let's just keep it to where we know things I think might fall in place, which is about 7 or 8 days out. I do want to point out, though, that the risk on Monday, as that wave comes out, continues to be hit hard by the Storm Prediction Center. They've now increased this area of enhanced risk down here around the Red River Valley of the South, right over the top of Norman, getting up into this part of Kansas. That would be the day 5 outlook for Monday. Day 6 is right over this part of the Corn Belt, right down to the Mid-South. So that's where this system early next week, Monday, Tuesday, is going to be producing its greatest risk. Again, I'll show it to you. There's Monday and Tuesday. Monday, Tuesday of next week. So from there, we need to look at the snow side of this again. So I'll show you 2 different models. This is the probability of just an inch of snow over the next 10 days. And this is the European model probability. Let's go back and grab the GFS ensemble. Just note that that's the 6Z run. Can I take you back to the 12 or the 0Z real quick just to compare apples to apples here? That is the 12Z run. Much higher probabilities here than we saw. I do want to note that the 18th to the 24th, really around the 18th though, excuse me. You can see the dates here. CPC is looking for this around the Front Range. I think this whole region, 17th, 18th, we just need to keep an eye on. Can't rule out snow during that time frame. I hope I can, but I don't think I can right now. I mentioned earlier the wet, really wet conditions, and you see down here, there's now a moderate risk of heavy rains down here the 18th to the 20th. And if we have a look here at the probabilities taking us out to the 21st, here's the chance of an inch. We step this up to the chance of 2 inches. This is the first system getting added to the next one. There's just a quarter run through here of very, very wet weather. On the drier side of it, I kind of mentioned that I think there are some more open windows in places in the western Corn Belt getting back into this part of the hard winter wheat belt. That's not to ignore the fact that a few locations in here have recently got some heavy rains. I'm just thinking some drier, more mild air in these areas is critical. But note this, the European ensemble is just not giving Montana any love with that precipitation coming through. The GFS is, though. Pretty nuts to see those differences. Okay, from there, week 2. We're again honing in on the ridging west, mild, much more warmer than average, I should say, and dry. But this is the area that continues to show up in the models as being wetter than average. And the concern here is that if you go back all the way to the beginning of March, there's been this spot down here in the lower Mississippi River Valley that's been exceptionally wet. Now, it's not to ignore other places like the entirety of the Northeast, which is going to get hit again with extremely wet weather. But this area, major delays in early planting, I would imagine. I'd like to hear from somebody in the comments how wet and soggy and delayed things are down here. But you also are able to note this drier area we've been so concerned about. Now, we'll get a new drought monitor later today, but I want to show you something. Going back 24 weeks, remember, last fall, the depth of the drought down here was historic. And over the last 24 weeks, we've seen some incredible change. So we didn't just get out of drought. We went out of drought and went straight over to the flooding risk constantly in this area. So again, 24-week change in the drought monitor. We'll be looking forward to the new one here in a little while. Okay, what about temperatures as we go forward? I want to make sure I show you something here. I was talking to a good friend of mine in Iowa yesterday, and he was talking about kind of the anxiety around getting planting fast. And he is near a place called Algona, and I'm going to show you it in my forecast system. So at agweather.com, start typing it in and click on the the drop-down menu when you typed in part of the name of the town, and make sure it puts in the number. That's the identification number I use. When you click submit, it's going to go hit my servers and bring back the data, and you can click here to get your forecast. Now, I love all the stuff at the top. It's kind of nice to see these things, but I want to show you down here at the bottom. You've got your year-to-date precipitation right away, plus you can compare it to the past 5 years. And don't forget, you can click some of these off if you don't want to see them and just compare it, for example, to a year ago. You've also got year-to-date GDDs. So notice that in this particular place, the average last frost date is in late April. Okay, but I wanted to go to the temperatures because this has been the issue. Very mild end of January, all of February except for like 2 days, most of March, and then we've returned to normal as of late. See that right there? We're sitting on this average. What I want you to do next is you can go look at the multi-model temperature so you can compare the NAM to the GFS to the MBM, and look, there's that cold weather returning around the 19th, getting back into the frost zone. But he was concerned about his soil temps. So I've got here for you 4-inch soil moisture, and I've also got for you your 4-inch soil temps. So here's the major warm-up coming this weekend and early next week. But we're going to drop back down below 50 in those soil temps pretty easily next Friday and Saturday. So if you want to see that in the models, just go have a look at it. I've kind of overlaid soil moisture and the soil temperatures here as well. And by the way, if you're looking at this going, man, only 40%, this is volumetric soil moisture, that's a good number. Nothing to worry too much about there. All right, I just wanted to make sure you all knew that that tool was there and to be used. So let's get back to the temperature discussion. He's right here in Iowa. No frost over the next 7 days. It's coming after the next 7 days, right? We've been talking a lot about that. So take a look at these high temperatures. Today's the cool day for the central U.S. There's Friday. Still cool here in the eastern Corn Belt. Saturday just opens it up and really, really mild. But why is it cold in California? That's when the low is off the coast of California, right here. Going into Sunday, still a cool one in California, into the Great Basin. Very hot compared to average. I mean, these are July temperatures on Sunday. Crazy to think about that. Monday, severe weather. Tuesday, severe weather. Already the cold air is coming in, linked up with that Arctic connection, and that's, you've seen the interplay between those troughs. Here it is. That's the beginning of the cold air that's going to move across the country. Now, it is now being better resolved in our models, but until then, boy, very, very warm, and you're going to accumulate a lot of heat units in the midsection of the country. Those heat units are then coming back to the west very soon, because this is the end of kind of the colder conditions in the west. The day 5 through 10, then day 10 through 15, much more mild air coming in here. But this is the colder conditions I'm concerned about. It's also in the European model. There's day 5 through 10. There's day 10 through 15. So the warm-up happening behind this. It's the timing on these temperatures that's critical. So let's use that artificial intelligence forecast again. This is next Thursday morning, the 18th. This is going to be next Friday morning, the 19th. And here is next Saturday morning, the 20th. And here is the 21st. That's the time frame over which, watch the black contour on Thursday the 18th, Friday the 19th, Saturday the 20th, and Sunday the 21st that we watched the cooler air come in. Now there is a thread in this thought process that suggests that this could be kind of the last push here of cold air, because I don't see anything in the models linking it back up again with Arctic air. And the new forecast that just came out from the Europeans say the last week of April, very mild in the midsection of the country. Not a major concern here in the west. This is snow feedback, I think. After that, just want to show you, same thing is showing up in the CFS extended. Their last week of April, first week of May, a little cooler in the southeast. This isn't anything to worry about. It's if that cold was linked to cold that went all the way to the Canada that I would worry about. So looks as though we've got to watch this next weekend, and then I think we get by. I think we're going to get by with more wide open planting windows. I'm working on something new for you too. So I don't have a lot of new long range information after this, but I mean, that gets us to early May. What I'm working on is we're having a discussion about what are the best analogs to this year. And while we're waiting on the other models to fill in, we've already seen the we've already seen the new National Multi-Model Ensemble. We've already seen the new Long Range Euro. While I'm waiting on the CPC, the IRI, other forecasting systems, I'm going to be working on showing you what each of the analog years that I've chosen did. I think it'd be a great way to kind of build in this idea about what to expect going forward. So I'll start working on that, and we'll get in some tomorrow. And we'll spend most of next week just doing it kind of day by day, looking at these analog years. That'll be a lot of fun, at least be fun for me, so I hope you'll like it. But where I'm going to finish is with South America. The narrative here hasn't changed too much. We've seen a little bit larger area go on the drier side of it, but hitting these critical acres in Mato Grosso do Sul, Paraná, still showing up in the models with wetter. Same thing with parts of Argentina. I will show you this again, even though the model did not perform well for April. They are predicting, the European model is predicting, from April 21 to May 21, possibly reducing precipitation totals during grain fill. We'll watch it. It's only a model run. I got burned by this model in forecasting early April for you, so we need to know if that signal is actually real. I think it's related to the MJO and the collapse of El Nino, but I need to look at this hard to see if I should put some good trust in this. All right, that's it. You have a good day. I'm going to get up to Wisconsin, and we'll talk tomorrow. Thanks.